Before you scroll, give yourself just a few seconds. Because if this message has found you today, it may not be a coincidence. Some messages arrive exactly when they're needed most. And today, there is one truth. Your soulmate has been carrying in silence. Not because they wanted to hide it, but because neither of you was ready to hear it before now. For days, weeks, or maybe even years, your heart has been asking questions that no one around you could answer. Why can't I let this feeling go? Why do I keep believing someone is thinking about me? Why does it feel like my story isn't finished yet? What if those questions were never random? What if, at this very moment, someone connected to your soul is carrying the same questions? Stay until the end. Because the truth you're about to hear isn't meant to create fear. It's meant to bring clarity, hope, and a new way of seeing everything you've been through. Sometimes, the message you've been waiting for doesn't come from where you expect. It arrives quietly, exactly when your heart is finally ready to receive it. There is something remarkable about the way life brings people together. It rarely happens when we demand it. It rarely happens when we try to control every detail. Instead, life waits. Not to punish us, but to prepare us. Think back over the last few months. How many times did you believe you had reached the end of the road? How many moments made you question whether your future would ever feel different? There were days when hope felt distant. Days when silence seemed louder than any answer. Yet somehow, you kept moving. Not because you had every answer, but because something inside you refused to stop believing. That quiet strength has been shaping you in ways you still cannot fully see. And while your life has been changing, someone else has been changing too. Your soulmate's journey has not been easier. They have faced uncertainty, moments of doubt, lessons they never expected to learn. More than once, they tried to convince themselves to ignore what their heart kept whispering. But every time they tried to move away from that feeling, life gently brought them back to it. Because some connections cannot be erased simply by ignoring them. They remain quietly, patiently, waiting for the moment when both hearts are finally ready. Perhaps that is why this message found you today. Not to tell you that everything will change overnight, but to remind you that meaningful change often begins long before we can recognize it. Every difficult season has been teaching you something. Patience, compassion, understanding, strength you never knew you possessed. And those lessons were never wasted. They were preparing you for a connection built on something deeper than excitement. A connection built on trust, on peace, on two people who have learned that real love is not about perfection, but about choosing one another with honesty every single day. Sometimes the greatest truth is not that someone is searching for you. Sometimes the greatest truth is that life has been quietly preparing both of you for the moment your paths finally meet. There is something your soulmate has wanted to say for a long time. Not because the words were impossible to find, but because the right moment had not yet arrived. Sometimes the heart understands a truth long before the mind is willing to accept it. Perhaps that is why both of you have spent so much time feeling as if something was missing. Not because your lives were empty, but because a quiet part of your soul kept reminding you that your story was still unfolding. Many people believe that destiny works through dramatic moments. A sudden meeting. A perfect coincidence. A life-changing conversation. But more often, destiny works in silence. It begins with small changes that almost no one notices. A different way of thinking. A new sense of peace. A lesson that finally makes sense after months of confusion. That is how lasting change begins. Quietly. Patiently. One step at a time. Your soulmate has been experiencing those changes too. They've started questioning things that once seemed important. Goals that once consumed their attention no longer feel the same. They've discovered that success means very little if there is no peace inside the heart. And perhaps you've been learning that same lesson. Life has a remarkable way of teaching two people similar lessons, even when they have never spoken. Because before two lives can move in the same direction, both hearts must grow strong enough to walk that path. That growth is rarely comfortable. It asks you to let go of fear, to release old disappointments, to forgive people who never apologized, and most importantly, to forgive yourself. Many people carry guilt for things they could never control. They replay old conversations, old mistakes, old opportunities that disappeared years ago. But the truth is, your future has never been defined by your worst moment. It has always been shaped by your willingness to keep moving forward. That is exactly what your soulmate has been discovering. They've realized that looking backward cannot create tomorrow. Only hope can do that. Only faith can do that. Perhaps that is why this message found you today. Not to promise that every challenge will disappear overnight, but to remind you that your heart has already survived every difficult chapter that once seemed impossible. Think about the person you were 1 year ago. You carried different fears, different dreams, different questions. Today, whether you realize it or not, you are wiser, calmer, stronger. Not because life became easier, but because every challenge quietly built a stronger version of you. And while you were growing, someone else was growing too. Your soulmate has been learning patience, learning humility, learning that genuine love cannot be rushed. Because anything forced by fear rarely lasts. But what grows naturally often becomes unshakable. Perhaps the greatest truth your soulmate wants you to hear is this. Don't lose hope just because you cannot see the whole picture. The night sky never asks the stars to appear all at once. One by one, they begin to shine. And suddenly, the darkness no longer feels empty. Life often works the same way. Small blessings appear first. A little more peace. A little more confidence. A little more clarity. Then one day, you look back and realize those small moments were quietly leading you toward something much greater. Maybe that is exactly where you are now. Standing between the life you've known and the life that is slowly finding its way toward you. If you've stayed with this message until now, perhaps your heart already knows that this isn't the end of your story. Perhaps it's only the beginning of the chapter you've been preparing for all along. The truth is, there are moments in life that seem ordinary while you're living them. Only later do you realize they were quietly changing everything. Perhaps today is one of those moments. Not because something dramatic has happened, but because your heart has become ready to hear a truth it couldn't fully understand before. Your soulmate has been carrying a quiet realization. One they didn't expect. One they couldn't explain. The more they tried to ignore it, the stronger it became. At first, they believed it was simply a passing thought. A moment that would eventually fade away. But instead, it continued returning. Not every day. Not every hour. But often enough to remind them that some feelings refuse to disappear for a reason. Perhaps you've experienced something similar. A feeling that quietly returns, even after you've convinced yourself to let it go. Not because you're holding on, but because your heart recognizes something. Your mind is still trying to understand. There is a reason meaningful connections cannot be measured by time alone. Some people spend years together, yet never truly understand one another. Others share only a brief moment, and somehow leave a mark that lasts forever. Real connection has never been about how long you've known someone. It has always been about how deeply your souls recognize peace in each other's presence. That kind of recognition cannot be forced. It cannot be rushed. And it certainly cannot be created by pretending to be someone you're not. Perhaps that is why life has asked both of you to spend time growing separately. Not to create distance, but to create wisdom. The lessons you've learned were never meant to make your heart colder. They were meant to help you recognize the difference between temporary attention and genuine care. Between excitement and peace. Because lasting love is rarely loud. It doesn't constantly demand proof. It doesn't create endless confusion. Instead, it brings a quiet confidence. A feeling that says, I don't need to force this. I simply need to become the person I'm meant to be. Your soulmate has been discovering that same truth. They've begun letting go of expectations that once controlled their decisions. They've realized that the happiest moments in life cannot be planned perfectly. Some of the most beautiful chapters begin unexpectedly. Exactly when both hearts have stopped trying to control every outcome. Think about the changing seasons. A tree never questions whether spring will arrive. It simply continues growing. Even during the coldest days. It trusts that the season will change when the time is right. Perhaps that is the lesson your own heart has been learning. To continue growing. Even when you cannot yet see the results. Because growth happening beneath the surface is still growth. Healing that no one else notices is still healing. Progress that feels invisible is still progress. Never underestimate what quiet seasons are doing inside you. Many of the qualities that will strengthen your future relationships are being built right now. Patience, understanding, compassion, the ability to remain calm during uncertainty. These are gifts that cannot be purchased. They can only be developed through experience. And perhaps that experience has prepared you far more than you realize. If your soulmate could speak openly to you today, perhaps they would say something like this. Don't stop believing just because the road has been longer than you expected. Everything we've experienced has been shaping us into people who can protect each other's peace instead of adding to each other's pain. Maybe that is the real message hidden inside this moment. Not that life has forgotten you, but that life has been preparing both of you more carefully than you ever imagined. And perhaps, when the right chapter finally begins, you'll look back at every delay, every unanswered question, and every quiet season with gratitude instead of disappointment. Because you'll finally understand that nothing meaningful was ever late. It was simply arriving at the moment it could be appreciated the most. There comes a point in every journey when life quietly asks one simple question. Will you keep believing, even when you cannot see the destination? That question has been placed before both of you, not to test your worth, but to reveal your strength. Your soulmate has faced moments that changed the way they see the world. Moments that taught them not everyone who enters your life is meant to stay. Some people arrive to teach a lesson. Some arrive to reveal hidden strengths. And some leave behind wisdom that can only be understood with time. Perhaps you've experienced the very same thing. There were relationships that looked promising, yet somehow never became what you hoped. There were dreams you held tightly, only to watch them slowly disappear. At the time, it felt like life was taking something away. But now, if you look carefully, you may begin to see another truth. Those endings created space. Space for growth. Space for healing. Space for a future that could never have existed if everything had gone exactly as planned. Sometimes, the greatest blessing is not what enters your life. It's what quietly leaves, before it has the chance to steal your peace. Your soulmate has begun to understand this. They've stopped chasing what refuses to stay. They've stopped trying to prove their worth to people who never truly saw their heart. Instead, they've started protecting their peace. Choosing honesty over approval. Choosing growth over comfort. And perhaps, without realizing it, you've been learning those same lessons. That is why your paths are becoming more aligned than ever before. Not because fate suddenly changed overnight, but because both of you have become different people. Stronger, wiser, more patient, more grateful. Real love doesn't begin with perfection. It begins when two people no longer expect another person to complete them. Instead, they meet as two whole hearts, ready to walk in the same direction. That is the kind of connection that lasts. Not because life becomes easy, but because both people have learned how to face difficult seasons together. Imagine standing on a mountain just before sunrise. The valley below is still covered in darkness. From where you stand, it seems as though nothing is changing. Then slowly, the first light touches the horizon. Within minutes, everything looks different. The mountains haven't moved. The path hasn't changed. Only the light has. Sometimes the biggest transformation isn't a new destination. It's a new perspective. Perhaps that is the truth your soulmate hopes you will discover. Don't allow temporary uncertainty to convince you that permanent hope has disappeared. Because hope has never depended on what you can see. It grows quietly inside a heart that refuses to stop believing. If you have made it this far, take a moment to appreciate how much you've already overcome. Every difficult season taught you resilience. Every unanswered prayer taught you patience. Every unexpected delay taught you trust. None of it was meaningless. Every step has quietly been shaping the person you are becoming. And maybe that person is finally ready for the next chapter. Not because everything is perfect, but because your heart has learned that peace is far more valuable than perfection. Perhaps the greatest truth isn't that your soulmate is looking for you. Perhaps the greatest truth is that both of you are finally becoming the people you were always meant to be. And when two hearts grow in the right direction, life has an extraordinary way of bringing them together at exactly the right time. And now, before this message comes to an end, there is one final truth your soulmate wants you to remember. Not every answer arrives the moment we ask for it. Some answers arrive only after we've become ready to understand them. For a long time, you may have believed that waiting meant nothing was happening. But waiting has never meant that. Waiting has been changing you. Quietly. Patiently. Day by day. It has taught you how to stay hopeful without having every answer. It has shown you that strength isn't found in having control over everything. Real strength is choosing peace, even when life feels uncertain. Your soulmate has been learning that same lesson. They've discovered that happiness cannot be built on fear. It cannot grow where trust is missing. And it cannot survive if two people are still carrying the weight of yesterday. That is why every challenge you've faced has mattered. Not because life wanted to make your journey difficult, but because every lesson has been preparing your heart for something that can truly last. Perhaps you've noticed. You're no longer chasing the things that once seemed so important. You don't seek constant approval. You don't measure your worth by how many people notice you. Instead, you've begun searching for something much deeper. Peace. Honesty. A connection that feels safe rather than confusing. Without realizing it, your soulmate has been searching for those same things. Not because someone told them to, but because experience became their greatest teacher. Life has shown both of you that temporary excitement fades. But genuine understanding only becomes stronger with time. That is why lasting love is never built in a single moment. It is built through growth. Through patience. Through choosing kindness. Even when life gives you reasons to become bitter. If your soulmate could sit beside you today, perhaps these would be the words they would quietly say. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for continuing to believe, even on the days when nothing seemed to make sense. Every challenge you've overcome has been shaping the person I was always meant to meet. Maybe that is the message your heart needed all along. Not a promise about tomorrow. Not certainty about every detail. But a reminder that who you are becoming today is more important than anything you are waiting for. Because when your heart changes, your world begins to change with it. So don't rush this chapter. Don't compare your journey with someone else's. Every life has its own rhythm. Every story has its own timing. And the chapters that take the longest to unfold often become the ones we treasure the most. As this message comes to a close, carry this one thought with you. You have survived every season that once made you question your future. You are stronger than your fears, wiser than your past, and closer to your next chapter than you realize. Keep choosing hope. Keep choosing peace. Keep becoming the person you are meant to be. Because the right connections are never built by rushing. They are built by two hearts that have learned the value of patience, the beauty of kindness, and the quiet strength of unwavering faith. Before you leave, take a quiet moment and think about this question. What was the one sentence in today's message that stayed with your heart? Share it in the comments. Your words may become the encouragement someone else needs today. And if these messages bring you comfort, you're always welcome to return whenever your heart needs a little hope. Until next time, protect your peace, trust your journey, and remember, sometimes the most beautiful blessings don't arrive with noise. They arrive quietly, exactly when your heart is ready to receive them.